Hello and welcome to DDOCast episode 356, recorded live on Sunday, October 26th. Apologies for the lack of music. Had a little bit of a last-minute technical difficulty there. I'm your host, Patrick. With me this week, we have a couple of guests. We have, joining us from DDO Cocktail Hour, Lessah.
Hey, Patrick. Thank you for having me on. Back. Thank you for having me back, I should say.
Yeah. Always love having Lessah on the show. We also have joining us FailedLegend, aka Nick, sporting a
hey there, guys.
bit
Have
of
fun
a
last time,
here.
have fun again. And here's Kiwis.
We have a half dragon
Cat.
cat and a kobold rogue, I believe.
See, it has eyeballs.
This week's screenshot is Gwendolyn resting after a long adventure in the 194th screenshot of the week. I believe that is at the end of Beyond the Rift, the last fight area. We like to talk about Dungeons & Dragons online nearly every weekend. You can watch us through Google Plus Hangouts, YouTube, or from our website at DDOCast.com. DDOCast is usually hosted by Cyber Ears, the awesome podcast hosting network, and shows are usually available within a few days of recording. The next show will probably be on November 1st or 2nd, sometime next weekend, and you can stay updated by following us on social media pages or the website DDOcast.com with our calendar. On the podcast this week, we've got a little bit of game news, including some stuff on Barbarians, and we're going to have a discussion on Hirelings and pets, or companions is perhaps a better word. It has been pointed out to me already. So we'll get started with game news. The major news for the week, or coming up, is the DDO game servers will be brought down on Monday, October 27th from 9 to noon Eastern Time for an update to the game. And additionally, the forums will be brought down from 10 a.m. to noon Eastern Time. Thanks for the patience, and see us back in game. Just a quick word of advice on that. Since the forums will be down, you can usually follow stuff on Facebook or possibly Twitter. If you're kind of trying to stay up to date on what's going on, since they're going to be down at the same time, which is a little awkward. The Barbarian enhancement changes, which we'll talk about in a minute, are slated for a future update, most likely update 24, and this patch includes an expansion of the Mirror of Glamoring to include docents and shields, along with a bunch of fixes and improvements. They'll have release notes published on Monday morning. No weapons yet, but they do want to get that in. They're trying to figure out how to make that work. Let's see. There was a confirmation from Turbine regarding the layoffs. They said that they can confirm that a number of people were laid off across Turbine last week. They are not able to provide further details. They can say that their plans for DDO remained unchanged. The time frame for Update 24 remains unchanged. They're also working on the patch coming out on Monday, and they'll talk about their plans on their level cap as they get closer to making that happen. It's kind of their normal thing that they say. They pretty much always say that they can confirm that people were laid off, but they can't talk about anything more so than that. They did have kind of an interesting call out. They are trying to form a DDO Twitch stream team. So Jerry writes, do you like to live stream yourself playing DDO regularly? Are you looking to grow your audience? Would you be interested in streaming on the official DDO Stream Twitch channel? If the answer is yes, they would like to talk to you. They are in the process of creating a team. How it would work, they will give you the ability to broadcast your stream on the official DDO Twitch channel by giving you access to a stream key. You would still need your own software to do that. They would like you to stick to a regular schedule of whatever length works best for you. Weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, whatever, just as long as it's kind of a regular schedule. You can essentially stream anything DDO related you'd like, but it would generally need to follow the community guidelines. So harassment, excessive profanity, and/or nudity will not be permitted. We'll keep an updated calendar on the live stream for the Twitch page. You can promote your stream through various social networks and website, and they will periodically give you some Turbine point codes or other things to give away to people who visit the show. And they will give you some graphics and such to liven up the look of your stream. So if you'd like to do that, send an email to ddo@turbine.com, and you can talk further about that. So that's kind of fun and exciting. I'm not sure, Lessah, if the Fall Fling would be appropriate for that, since you guys seem to enjoy nudity as one of your rules.
Nudity is a rule in the Fall Fling, and we are often inappropriate. I don't know.
Well, I'm sure certain someone isn't wearing pants while they're playing. So.
He's never wearing pants. He's never.
No, I support the no pants rule. I'm wearing pants because I'm on camera right now, but in general.
Samus is never wearing pants, and if he was on camera, he still wouldn't have any pants on. It would be okay.
Well, technically, I could probably get away with it, considering the fact I'm wearing a robe.
Exactly.
And moving right along. Let's see. They announced kind of their first iteration of plans for changing the Barbarian enhancements and doing enhancement pass on them. And so I'll kind of give the highlights for this. Keep in mind that under this is changes to healing amplification, going to an additive system, not a multiplicative system. You will notice there's a lot of healing amplification in the Barbarian line. And if this was multiplicative, then that would be ridiculous. The numbers have to be much smaller. So we'll start with the Frenzied Berserker. The core abilities. The second core ability got some extra hit points. It now gives plus 20 hit points and 10 healing amplification. Then the next core gives additional 30 hit points and an additional plus 10 amplification. The second toughness at level 12, you get 10 PRR, 60 hit points, and 20 amplification. The fourth one, Death Frenzy, you get another 100 hit points and 20 healing amplification. And the capstone, you additionally to what it already gives, gain plus 4 Constitution, 150 hit points, and 40 healing amplification. So if you add all of that up, let's see, that is 10, 20, 40, 60, 100 healing amplification, and something along the lines of 300 hit points. Additionally to what you already get from Frenzied Berserker. Yeehaw!
Wow.
Yeah. That's a
Not
lot.
to mention the healing you get at Tier 5.
So in Tier 1, they changed Cracking Attack to give more damage, more weapon damage. Tier 2, the temporary hit points you get from Blood Tribute will scale with 400% melee power. So you get 50, 100, and 150 hit points based on the tier that you've got. Scale that with 400% melee power, and that's a load of hit points. The Blood Trail ability now gives you Supreme Cleave no longer has a hit point cost and a moderate amount of melee power. They added some melee power to Crazy Strike if you hit. Let's see. This one was kind of lackluster. Lash Out. Supreme Cleave also reduces the AC of enemies by 1, 2, or 3 for 6 seconds. Really? I think we can do better than that. I always laugh at things that are 1, 2, or 3 AC because it's realistically not that much. And then a new ability in Tier 5, Accelerated Metabolism. While raging, you heal 2d6 hit points every 4 seconds. The healing scales with 100% melee power. And then they changed the save on the Tantrum Cleave. The forward save is now 10 plus your Strength modifier plus your Barbarian level. So makes that a little more beefy. Overall, for the Frenzied Berserker, they didn't feel like they needed to really up the damage output too much, but they wanted to make it a little bit more survivable, hence the hit points and healing application. Any thoughts on Frenzied Berserker before we move on to the next one? I don't know if you guys play Barbarians very much.
Not particularly. Yeah. Although, with these changes, I might.
Yeah, I had two, and I actually redid one of them into a swashbuckler because I just wasn't enjoying playing him, and I wanted to enjoy playing him, so I changed him into a swashbuckler, and now I'm in love.
Yeah, well, a major change with, well, all three, but really Frenzied Berserker mainly, is they removed the majority of the penalties. Like, even if they didn't do actual money changes, they removed a lot of the, like, negative X to this, negative AC. So,
yeah, I think they did that on Power Rage.
Yeah.
There were some that they took stuff out, but I didn't really read that part.
Yeah, and I think they added melee power in there somewhere.
Yeah, it wasn't very much. There was one place where you could get 2 melee power, just a static 2, and then there's one where there's an attack that if it lands, it gives you some melee power for a few seconds. But naturally, there's not very much. Let's see, the Occult Slayer. Here are the proposed changes for the Occult Slayer. The Occult Slayer is designed to mitigate magical damage while at the same time shutting down and eliminating foes that use magic against you. They kind of changed a major feature of this. There was a bonded weapon thing where you would build a psychic bond with your weapon, but when you switched, it would go away. They took that out. So if you change weapons, it no longer resets your weapon bond, which is good for that ability. On the core, basically, again, you got hit points and healing application all the way up. I think more or less the same at the same rate as the other ones, as the Frenzied Berserker. However, they also added in some MRR, so you can get an additional 20 MRR out of the top 3 core abilities in the Occult Slayer. They reduced the action point cost of Ear Smash to 1 per tier. They also gave you, on addition to the weapon bond, plus 10, which would give you competence bonus to AC, and now also gives you plus 1, 2, or 3 MRR, which is a very paltry amount, but it's there. They reduced the cost of lessons of travel, which was a moderate amount of energy resistance. And let's see, they gave the action boost got up to saves versus magic got increased a little bit. They removed the bond requirement from Oath of Retribution, which required you to, I think it used to be like you had to have 100 Retribution, and if you're below 50% health, you could get a +1 critical multiplier on attack rolls of 19 or 20. Lessons of Nature got a boost as well. The ability, the selector is now a multi-selector for Constitution or +1 Wisdom. I have no idea why you would pick +1 Wisdom in this tree as a Barbarian, but they did it. They added a new ability at the 4th level, and this is kind of how they changed this tree functionally. You can expend 30 weapon bond to gain 10 melee power for 10 seconds. So a lot of things they added that you can spend, or you already could spend some of the weapon bond, although I don't know if there's enough of that going on. In Tier 5, you could expend all weapon stacks of weapon bond. For each stack expended, you were healed for 2 hit points. So that could be up to 400 hit points, and the healing scales with 100% melee power. It also gives you hit points and magical resistance rating up to 12 magical resistance rating and 30 hit points. And Secret Strike was 50 stacks of weapon bond to make a melee weapon attack for +1, 3, or 5 weapon damage with a +1 critical threat range and +1 critical multiplier. So I don't think this is as strong as the Frenzied Berserker tree, although I think that was kind of true on live now as well. The only thing that's interesting out of that is the MRR, I think. If you guys have any additional thoughts on that one.
Honestly, it's really a shame that this one's the weakest, because whenever I think Barbarian, I think run forward, jump, crush the mages, then turn around and help the tank. So it sucks that...
It's a good strategy.
Yeah. So it's a shame that the actual anti-magic one isn't that great. I hate the weapon bond. That's so annoying. At least you can switch weapons now. But aside from a few things in it, it's not very good.
Yeah, there just isn't a lot to do with it. That's kind of the thing. I mean, the weapon bond is kind of an interesting mechanic. It's not really much to do with it. But you can, let's see, you get 12. Let's see, you can get a bit of MRR in here. There's another one here that I just lost. So you get 12 plus the, 20 from beforehand, the cores, another 3, or the 35, plus there's like another, here it is, plus another 4, or plus another 12. So, I mean, you can get a fair, something like 52 MRR out of this tree. But other than that, it's kind of lackluster.
Well, considering the fact that the weapon bond is like 90% of this tree, the heal is very expensive.
Yeah, it's not something you're supposed to be able to do constantly.
Yeah.
Although the cooldown, if you go all the way up the tree, or all the way up that stack, tier 3 on it, the cooldown's only 10 seconds. So you could use it a fair bit if you can get it to stack up. might not be very
Yeah.
effective that way. But
It just using it kind of purges everything you get from the tree.
with the Ravager tree, they focused on Blood Rage, and they also, let's see, they also made some of the bonus damage to be forced, since there's no clear explanation or understanding of what creatures were affected by the alignment-based damage. So again, with the cores, they added healing amplification. Although they did with Pain Touch, the second core, the damage now, the 1d6 damage scales with 100% melee power, so yeehaw there. But then again, hit points and healing amplification and +4 constitution at the capstone. They didn't really change tier 1. Tier 2, the Intimidate Shaken effect is now, the DC is 10 plus your strength modifier plus your barbarian level. Note that the DC is currently 13, so that's going to be a lot better.
It'll actually work.
Yeah.
Hopefully.
They made the damage from Mutilate force damage and scaling with 200% melee power. I like Pain scales with 100% melee power, which was, if you got hit, you could get some extra hit points. That's kind of nice. They changed the action boost to give melee power, which is pretty slick. I don't remember what it was. That's not the damage one, was it? There was one that in one of the trees that was a damage boost, and I think that might have been it. Let me look at the other ones real quick. Yeah, it looks like that instead of getting a +% to damage, it's now +% to melee power, which is effectively the same thing. It just applies to more things. So I have a feeling that will be something we see throughout the other trees as well as they get passes. Slaughter had its action points reduced, which is pretty slick. Poison damage from Festering Wound now scales with melee power. They added Strength to an option for the stats out of the tree. It played a little bit with Fury. When Slaughter damages an enemy, you gain 3 Fury. So they upped that. They also give you melee power on a critical hit on that ability. I hit back. Damage scales melee power. Dismember increases melee power, and the force damage scales with melee power again. And they added Blood Strength at tier 5. Each time you landed a hit, you are healed for 1d4 hit points. Each time you kill an opponent, you are healed for 1d20 hit points, and that healing scales with 100% melee power. And then they made it so that the Critical Rage ability no longer requires the Cruel Cut line, so you can just get that at tier 5. And while raging, you also each hit also grants 1 stack of Fury as another ability in that tree. And Fury was kind of a major thing. When you're raging and miss your attack roll by 1, or by rolling 1, you gain Fury for 6 seconds, which gives an extra bonus to attack and damage, and can stack up to 6 times. So they can retool that tree. I think Frenzied Berserker out of all of them gets the biggest win. Although that may just be because that's the one that I pay attention to the most, and where I'm in. So that's kind of where my Barbarian lives, is that one in the Ravager tree. But I like that there's more healing amplification in the tree. I think that's kind of where Barbarians fall short in today's world, is they can't use a lot of the Epic Destiny abilities while they're raging to self-heal, which is kind of a big feature of endgame play right now, is self-healing. So anything that helps that is better.
Yeah. Ravager was my favorite before the changes, and it's still my favorite. I love it basically, they've got Light Fist now.
Yeah, it's a good tree. It's definitely kind of my secondary tree. I always have liked the +10 weapon damage attack. That's always kind of fun to. I think if you're in the I can't remember the one with Adrenaline, Fury of the Wild, Epic Destiny, click an Adrenaline, then click that attack and get some big numbers. That was always kind of fun.
Slaughter? Yeah, Slaughter's fun. I think they reduced the cooldown, didn't they? Yeah, it's 30 seconds now.
Yeah, they reduced the cooldown and they reduced its cost. So.
Oh wow.
It only costs 1 action point per instead of 2 now.
Yeah, my Ravager is gonna love these changes.
As far as they go for Barbarians, they're definitely good changes, but
yeah,
we'll see how well. I think the healing application is really going to be the thing that will tell us if if barbarians are still viable as endgame classes these days, because that's kind of their self-healing is where they fall short these days, not so much DPS, which is good that they're not necessarily trying to fix the lack of DPS with more DPS, because they can still pack a pretty good punch. So.
Yeah, well, in theory it should work because it scales with both melee power and heal amp. So.
Yeah, so it's a fair bit there. There's a couple abilities that the temporary hit points scale with melee power. The healing that they do get is scaling with melee power. It's not a lot of healing, but no, it's still something. It would more or less, if you had them both, it would more or less offset the fury or the frenzy stuff. So that's what we get.
Oh, the changes to healing amplification are in general a buff, unless you have like super 800% or whatever. But for most people, it should see an increase.
Yeah, and my barbarians are Warforged, so more healing amp is great.
Yeah.
So I've always kind of pursued that more so than a lot of people have, and I've often gotten compliments from healers that said, "Hey, wow, your healing amp's great, and you're a Warforged. That's amazing. How did you do that?"
Yeah, I always take healer's friend, unless I'm a wizard.
It's not just healer's friend. There's got a couple of things that he gets healing amplification from as well.
Right. That's the other thing. Clerics will hate barbarians less.
Maybe. I don't know. As a cleric, healing amp I don't think is going to be that big of a thing, because it wasn't ever, if they were like the main tank, it wasn't necessarily difficult to keep them up. I guess it would generally take more damage, and some certainly had a lackluster of healing amp, but it wasn't too bad. Although I will say I did run into the occasional barbarian that was very much a sponge.
Yeah, well, that's anyone really.
Yeah, that could always be anyone. Let's see, bonus days for the week. Crystal Cove, still running through November 2nd, but it's still the bonus for the weekend. They did for the weekend drop the turn-in rate to 500 pieces or 250 on Wayfinder to give it a lot more iterations. And I think, what was it, like previously it was down to 2,000. So they really dropped the turn-in rate for the weekend. They did say that next week will feature bonus days in addition to the Cove. See, store news. There are, sales this week, 20% off of Astral Shards. So if you were looking to get some Astral Shards, good time to do that. 20% off of Guild Renown Elixirs, 50% off of Guild Charters, and 50% off of Airship. So great time to get those if those are things you're interested in. The freebie for the week, you can get a 50 stack of Omnispell Dust with the code DUST23. Community news, 115th Chronicle of the week. Sith DDO is giving away some Turbine points. MD Interactive is also giving away Turbine points. Enrique looked at Church of the Occult, and Tactilicious and Craftalicious we're looking at some crafting stuff. The Heroes of Hinfolk on Galana conducted a trivia event yesterday on Saturday, which was pretty great for them to be doing that. Didn't find anything on how that went, but wasn't really looking for it either. Guildhall, the Dragon Seekers are an Argonessan-based guild devoted to new player growth and supporting veteran players. This is a close-knit level 66 guild. It's open to anyone who's at least 18 years or older who is interested in running quests, raids, and taking part in guild events. The guild has players from around the world as well as a website, which you can find through there. The Chronicle comment for the week. If you were burying treasure, what would you put in your treasure chest? Lessah, how about you go first? Make sure you unmute yourself.
Thank you. Because I was talking. Okay, if I was burying treasure, what would I put in my treasure chest? And the first thing I can think of are pet ownership certificates. And I would make up my own. It would be, I would have a bunny, I would have a baby ogre, I would have a troglodyte, a little bitty troglodyte, I would have a little bitty mind flayer, and I would call him Flaykins. Yes, all
and a
those.
Little bitty Samus.
Yeah, and a little bit, oh my, how cute would that be? How cute would that be to have a little bitty Samus? Oh, with a yellow hat and the bunny slippers, and he would follow me around and he would wave a flag behind me.
One bunny slipper.
Yeah, just one bunny slipper. That's right, because the other one is lost. That's it. So that pet ownership certificates and tricks and top hats for all of the pets. That would be in my chest.
Nick, what would you bury in your treasure chest?
Can I just steal everyone's stuff and bury it?
If you're good enough, sure. I would say I'm going to put treasure in my treasure chest. Just stick all the gold in it. It's kind of lousy like that, though.
Well, out of game, I would collect up all my ridiculous trinkets and shove them in there. But in game, it would probably be mostly cosmetic stuff. I'd put my soon-to-be cosmetic Madstone Aegis, all my different cosmetic armors, my hats, my party hat, my bunny hat, all the very important stuff.
Madstone Aegis would be a good shield too, cosmetic. I like the Purple Dragon Knight shield stats, but I always find it kind of funny because comparatively, the shield is like really small.
Yeah.
Like you look at other tower shields, and they're like, well, my sword and board character is a dwarf, so the shield's about as tall as he is. Tower shield's usually about as tall as he is, and that shield looks like it's a buckler. It's so small. Yeah. It's kind of funny.
Well, the Madstone Aegis looks cool. So.
Yeah, it's got the blue going on. Or you could Madstone Aegis. Is that the old name or the new name? Because there's two versions that had the same shield graphic. There's the heroic version and the epic version.
Oh, and if we're making up our own pets, I'm definitely going with a broccoli pet.
Mm-hmm. It'll be popular. Fan site news. We got a shout out for our review of Update 23, and something else we'll talk about in a minute. DDO Players News had their latest podcast on Monday. They're doing a great job there. Hey, mute your mic before you start adjusting it.
Sorry.
Okay. Even though it took some screenshots from the high road, DDO Gamer faced the Titan.
Back in just a sec.
The Order of Syncletica looked at ninjas and assassins. Ginger Spice had another video walkthrough. I don't remember what it was off the top of my head. See, of course, they gave links for all of the Barbarian stuff. And let's see, the weekly Wednesday was this week, and I don't remember what they were doing. They were in the harbor for the Harbinger of Madness. Say that 4 times fast. Let's see. They also looked at patch notes and some other stuff, and the Fall Fling went to the Tomb of the Tormented. How did that go, Lessah?
I was trying to say your harbor for the Harbinger of Madness, Harbinger for the Harbinger of Madness, Harbinger. No, I can't do it. The Fall Fling had a good time this last week. I've always been intimidated by that quest. You have dead rats and mazes and shoving rotten meat through holes. It was pretty cool. Jerry made it seem really easy. Samus made it seem really easy. And before you know it, we had undead rats eating the corpse of a mummy lord. It was good. It was good times.
That quest has gone through a couple of weird iteration changes. Usually not necessarily intentional. There was a time where certain spells would go through the floor and you could attack the bad monsters in the maze.
Mm-hmm.
And there was also a time, it changed like the last time I ran it, which is probably like 6 months ago. But it used to be that you could stick meat in the holes and move some of the bad monsters that would attack your rats in the maze.
Mm-hmm.
You could actually get them to move and push the buttons. And I don't know if that's still the case because last time I ran it, again, this was a while back, you couldn't do that anymore. And
as an artificer, I was aiming my hand at the tombs through the holes, and I was basically dispensing out fireballs and killing all the bad monsters that were going to eat the rats. I don't know if Jerry actually liked that or not. I don't know if I was supposed to do that.
I don't think it's working as intended.
Probably not, but that's not my problem.
the necro quests are never quite working as intended.
I don't know. It's kind of an interesting mechanic of a quest, though, to try and do the maze. It's definitely easier if you can control the bad rats and have them go push the buttons for you, which I've used with great success. It also kind of makes them not trying to eat your rats, which is kind of the trick. But it's going to be a fun quest if you don't mind kind of working through that a little bit. DDO Gamer, as we mentioned with the Chronicle, they duoed the Titan, Jeff and his gamer girl, which was kind of a fun and amusing read of two people trying to solo not just the Titan, but the pre-raid, which kind of as a synopsis went, we two people tried to go in, we had some problems, we logged two different characters, came back in, did something, relogged other characters, came back in, did something, relogged other characters, and finally finished the quest. So it's kind of an amusing little read.
Oh, so they use multiple characters.
Yeah, they run into some problems
okay.
that their initial characters couldn't actually do.
Mm.
Because there's like it's meant to split the party up in a number of different ways.
Yeah.
There's a lot of DDOing and rerunning through, and there was some trickiness involved. But it was a good job for them.
Theoretically, they did do it with two characters, even though they tried it with several.
It was two people.
Yeah.
Multiple characters, but it was two people, which is still a pretty decent feat.
Yeah. Well, especially the boss fight.
Yeah, that it wouldn't be too difficult these days because you can bring level 20 in, or even higher, an epic level character, which I think is what they did. They weren't doing it at level.
Well, no, but there's a lot of coordination and stuff with that.
It's a fair bit, yeah. DDOcast news. I'd been asking some questions over the last several months of a variety of players, and what that was for is we recorded a DDOcast version of Guild Feud this past weekend with Galandra Rerolled, which is Lich's guild, and DDO Cocktail Hour, that's his team. And we're giving an opportunity for player or audience participation. So I have a survey set up. You can go there. You can answer the questions. If you correctly guess what most people had said, so there's 10 questions, and we interviewed 100 or asked 100 people those questions, 100 players those questions, and you get a point for every person who said what you say. And if you get the most points, you win 1,500 Turbine points and 2 Owlbear codes, Snowy Owlbear codes. Second place is, I think, I'd say 1,000 Turbine points and a Snowy Owlbear, and then third place is 500 points to Snowy Owlbear. Plus, there will be more Owlbears and points just as random entries. So if you enter, regardless of how well you do, you have a chance to win. So that'll be going on for a couple weeks, and then we'll play the episode that we recorded in a couple of weeks. And we'll link to something on the show notes so you can kind of get all the details about that as well. But in all told, there's something like 5,000 Turbine points and 10 Snowy Owlbears being given away through that. And it was, I'd say, Elizabeth, it was a lot of fun and some interesting times. That'll be coming out later. Okay, we're going to talk about our roundtable discussion. What we're kind of focusing on is how to improve your utilization of various hirelings, and I called them pets. People have corrected me already and said companions are slightly more better description.
Okay, how do I turn this off? There we go.
Google Hangout apps. So, anyways, going back to pets and hirelings, which I do want to just start out by saying, pretty much everything that you can do to improve hirelings and your companion pets also affects things like summon monsters. It affects charms, and those kind of things. Those monsters all get a boost while they're under your control as well. So we'll just start off. Do you guys have any tips on ways to just improve the hirelings and the pets themselves?
Yeah, one thing that and I guess this is kind of a question too. If you have room for a Sellswords Tavern, the airship amenity on your airship, then that actually boosts the Hireling's abilities, and you can also purchase Hirelings levels 4 through Epic right on your ship, so you don't. It's kind of one-stop shopping. Most people don't have the Sellswords Tavern. It's not really high priority, but I'm in a PD guild, so it's pretty much outside of the crafting halls and the bank and the mailbox. That's pretty much all we have. It's the Sellswords Tavern. That's the reason I know that.
Do you guys use
Sellswords.
Hirelings very much in
Oh yeah.
Permadeath?
Yeah, not every permadeath guild will allow you to use Hirelings, but the one that I play in 90% of the time does. So that I ended up getting to know quite a few of the Hirelings on an intimate level, Patrick. Very well. I mean, I got to know them very well. Sorry.
Do you have a favorite?
I've said too much. Do I have a favorite?
She's got a whole list later.
I have a list of favorites. I can't pick a favorite.
All right.
Yeah, that should stack with augment summoning the feat. Most of the time, these bonuses kind of stack because they're all coming from different places.
That's really cool then. So potentially you can beef up your companions and your hirelings and anything that you charm. If you had both of those, they could pretty much do the quest for you.
There's even
in
more
theory.
ways.
Yeah, exactly.
Nick, do you have some ways that you like to buff your hires and your companion pets?
Well, first off, take one of the most useless spells ever. All of these stat boosting spells. They're not very useful for players, but they work on all your hirelings, including the companions, because they've only got 2 equipment slots. So if you're a spellcaster, carrying those around with you work. As an artificer, you're really good at using scrolls and stuff, so you can scroll it. So I find that really helps them survive, especially like +4 con gets them that extra HP to survive. So
mass versions too on scrolls, right?
Yeah, you should be able to, but it doesn't matter as much because no one else really needs it. It's just for the hireling. That way you can wand it.
If you got a couple hirelings, if you have a couple hirelings, a summon monster, and a pet companion.
Oh yeah, fair enough. But otherwise, you can just pick up a wand of it.
Also true. Just some things that I did a little bit of research. I don't tend to use companions and hirelings a whole lot. I'll talk about some of the ways I do use them later. But augment summoning is a +4 bonus to stats, bonus to hit points, and fortification. Druid past lives, I think you get +2 stats per life, and you can get up to +6 from that. Druids have a lot of spells that they can use, so if you really like playing with a large posse, Druid is a pretty good way to go. Just some of the spells that they have: Pack Presence, you can add or subtract 75% of their threat generation. Harrowing Pack adds +2 to flanking. Attack bonus, as well as knockdowns on Vorpals. Pact Aptitude gives +6 to 1 stat. I would pick Constitution if it was me. I don't know why I'd pick anything else. Tenacious Pact. The Tenacious Pact one, it gives you, depending on your character level, a 15 to 39% bonus to healing amplification and fortification. I don't know if that's going to double with the new healing amplification rules or not, but definitely gives you a bonus there. The Druid enhancements, you can get Blood Moon Frenzy, which is a temporary bonus to movement and attack speed. The Primal Avatar, you can get Natural Shielding, which adds 30 to 100 hit points, 10 to 30 PRR, and natural creatures gain evasion. So if you like that, particularly as a druid, because that's where a lot of your creatures are going to be, that's a really great option. The Artificer has enhancements for their dog. They only affect their dog pet. So you can Uncaring Master, which means you don't lose hit points and spell points when it dies, which if you're going to use the dog in combat, that's a good one. They die a lot. You can add 5 to 15 PRR and Double Strike. You can make them self-repairing as well as repairing allies. Only repairing, not healing. You can gain 3 to 10 spell power if you are near the dog as well, and then you can give the dog 2 to 6 strength, dex, and constitution, and you can get 1 to 3 dodge if you're near it. I didn't look up the Pale Master Skeleton because I kind of forgot about it until someone mentioned it before we started recording. But you can also go to the Pale Master Skeleton tree. And we should also mention that both the Artificer dog and the Druid dog have enhancement trees in and of themselves that have some neat abilities in there as well. I know I'm not sure if this is true for the Druid one, but the Artificer dog has there's a chaotic alignment one, which basically makes them hate boxes.
Yeah.
Boxbreaker! So
Fun.
if anything, at the very least, having an Artificer dog, even if you've only got one level, perfect for box breaking. I view it as an XP bonus.
Artificer dogs are very, very useful, and I didn't even know this until someone told me, but your Artificer dog can use the amenity bar on your ship, and then they can use the resistance shrines that are in your cargo hold. So that's pretty cool, if you ask me.
Yes.
And then what I like to do is I like to beef my dog up with stats and fortification. I'll get a collar, named hand wraps, and just turn them into a collar. And then I'll be able to stick a couple of colorless augment slots in their collar and beef them up with constitution and strength. And then my dog almost never dies. He runs around and he trips everything. It's great.
Yeah, being in a high-level guild is, while it's minor to us players, it's a huge deal for the pets. Like, I'm not even that high level of a guild. I'm around 40, but even the minor buffs makes a huge difference for the pets.
Yeah, that's a good. And I want to kind of camp out a little bit on the gearing for the pets, because you can put some gear into the Artificer dog and the Druid wolf. I'm pretty sure you can't do that with the skeleton from Pale Master.
No.
But both of them, both the dog and the wolf, you can take any kind of hand wraps, including named hand wraps, I'm pretty sure, and turn them into a collar. And someone's gonna have to remind me how you do that.
I haven't done it in a while. Lessah?
Yes. How do you turn hand wraps into a collar? That's a great question. You can go to the easiest thing to do. Go to House Kneath, and right next to the tavern is a little covered area with a workbench, and it's clickable. You click on the workbench, and you'll get a window. You can convert your hand wraps into companion collars at that workstation. Some airships, primitive, have workstations right in their cargo hold. Those are super, super convenient. That's also where you make traps, by the way, if you ever want to mess around with making traps.
Oh, I love the grenades.
Yeah, I like making grenades too, but you can't go, there are no half measures there. You got to go all the way.
Yeah. That's one of my favorite things about the arty, actually. I love throwing the heal bombs.
You just have to remember that when you convert hand wraps into a collar, that there's going to be certain requirements. Sometimes it's ingredients, or most of the time it's ingredients, and other things. And it'll show you as soon as you click on it.
Also, one thing to clarify, you can only have one pet at a time. You can't do like arty dog, druid dog, skelly pet. You have to choose.
Good thing to note. Also worth noting that you can't turn a collar back into hand wraps, at least to my knowledge.
Yeah, it's a one-way trip.
But you can do fun things, like I'm pretty sure you can change the Thunderholm ones into pets as well. Although I
wonder if
don't know.
you'll be able to cosmetic them.
I don't know how much cosmetics would really work with hand wraps, since you can't really see the hand wraps anyways.
Oh, right.
I'm trying to think of. I don't know if there's if the level requirement becomes an issue, because I'm not exactly sure how the dog and the wolf, as you level, they get better naturally as well. They get extra hit points and a higher class level. However, I'm not sure how that works when you hit epic.
From what I understand, it just stops. Like, he doesn't seem to improve at all for me.
I'm pretty sure you can use higher level weapons though. Like you can use level 24 hand wraps and that kind of stuff. But I'm not entirely positive on that.
I'd like to see them to become a little more multi-class friendly though, because like even splashing a level or two makes them so much weaker.
Yeah, because they're based off your class level, not just your character level. Um, we should also know that the dog, the artificer dog, can take docents as armor, and the wolf pet can take, I believe, leather armor. I'm not sure if they can take other armors.
Jeez, get down.
You can put armor on the wolf as well. I'm pretty sure leather armor is the one that you can.
Yeah, I think it's leather, hide, basically what a druid would wear.
Is that what it is?
I don't think you can. I don't know. Have you ever tried to put like dragon scale on him or anything, Lessah?
No, and I don't mess around with the druid dogs. I only mess around with artificer dogs.
Fair enough.
Um,
Unfortunately, I don't have a high level druid, so I wouldn't be able to check.
I have one, but I kind of stopped using. The pets just don't cut it in the way that I tend to play. Going fast, and sometimes I'll pull them out. A lot of times I just kind of forget to, and just kind of ignore it.
For my druid, I tend to spec myself as a tank, and then my druid dog as DPS. So he doesn't really have to worry about dying much, because most things are attacking me. Unfortunately, the bear isn't the greatest form.
Yeah, the traps and spells are usually what tends to, particularly at higher levels, tends to what really kill off pets. The primal avatar evasion thing works really well for a druid dog, for sure, and other things that you can summon that would apply to, but it does not apply to hirelings, since none of them are natural animals.
Yeah. Well, don't forget Magister's Grand Summoner. I wish that was twistable.
That's where they can summon a pet, right?
Well, they can summon a pet, but they also get the boost.
I forgot about that one. Yeah, there may be some other ways to increase your pets as well, but those are just kind of some easy ones, and kind of the probably more common ones. So with that, let's talk about ways to more effectively utilize them, not just buff them up, but some tips for using hirelings. I know Lessah's got a bunch of notes here.
Yeah. You want to talk about hirelings? Let's talk about hirelings. Let's do that. All right, what's the first thing that you think of whenever you think, I'm going to have to use a hireling? What is it? Is it a negative emotion that you're experiencing? Because I
love hirelings.
I don't use hirelings because ... This is what I've heard. Hirelings are stupid. They're hard to control. Hirelings don't heal like they're supposed to. They don't attack the right target. Casters don't throw the right spell. Here's the bottom line, folks. The common denominator in your failed hireling relationships is you. Okay? You are not correctly understanding and utilizing your hirelings if they're not doing what you want them to do. So, my first tip is to don't get frustrated with your hireling because they don't multitask very well. They can only do one thing at a time. So give them one command at a time. And if their action bar is cycling through a cooldown, they're not going to listen to you at all. And if they're in the middle of something else, odds are they're not going to listen to you at all. They have an AI protocol that they're following, and they all seem to be different. So don't assume that you know what your hireling's AI is going to do next. I'll give you an example. If you consider yourself low enough on health to require a heal and your hireling isn't healing you, they just don't consider you low enough in health to warrant a heal yet. You can get pretty scary low before some of these hireling clerics will toss you a heal. So it's more likely they're focused on eliminating the threat to you than attacking the mob instead. I'm sorry, did you have something?
Oh, I was like, ow.
You're waving at me.
No, that's not what I meant. I was being a cleric. Like, I'll heal you later.
Whatever. I don't need to heal you. That's me as a cleric. It's really hard for me to watch this Netflix while you're playing and heal you at the same time. I have my aura going. Why don't you just come to me? Anyway, all right. So my other big pet peeve with hirelings, and man, this drives me absolutely insane. Don't just buy one hireling. Don't do it. Don't do it. If you're doing a chain and you're with your party and nobody wants to stop to let you go back and replenish your hireling, just buy two of them. Oh my God, how hard is that? It's going to run out. You're doing You don't have the money for it. Come on, you guys can all buy Stormreach. You can buy more than one hireling. So they're going to run out before that quest chain is over. You need a spare. I can't stress that enough, how annoying that is whenever I get into a party with someone and we start out a quest chain and then we're right in the middle of everything and they say, oh, my hireling ran out. And then they only bought one hireling to begin with. And that was silly because you knew we were going to be doing this. Anyway, I'll get off that because I can go on all day. all day. All right, so another member, you also need to think about maybe a backup hireling, because if there's only 2 or 3 of you and each of you gets a hireling, another member of your party might have the same hireling as you and you both can't call them. So consider a backup and buy a spare. Right. The other thing that I do is I hotkey the come here button, which is, I believe, the second button and has a pair of little feet on it on your hireling bar. And as if I'm jumping up high or falling through the air, I automatically call my hireling to me. That way they don't have a lot of catching up to do, and their action bar can already start cycling whenever I get ready to do what I'm going to do. Does that make sense?
It should be noted too that they changed the way that works now.
Yeah.
That they, instead of sometimes they would like walk to you. Now it's just they're supposed to just port to you.
Oh, they do. They do. But the drawback to that is that their action bar cycles through a cooldown, and so if you're in the middle of a fight and let's say you call your cleric hireling to you, they're not going to just pop in and automatically give you a heal. It's going to be a few seconds before they can do anything. Let's see. You can hotkey that stuff under the options tab, the options menu under key mapping, hireling bar slot 2. And under key mapping, if you go about 3/4 of the way down, scroll about 3/4 of the way down in the menu, that's where you'll find that section. When you call your hireling, I already talked about that. You have to cycle through. Okay. Do you have anything else to add, Patrick, in this little section?
Maybe. Does Nick have anything he wants to throw in here?
There's my secret. These back 3 buttons right here. Heal, come to me, run away. I know there's not actually
anyone else.
So you've already key mapped. You've already key mapped your hireling.
Yep.
I always have a couple of hotkeys for my hirelings.
Yeah, the third one is actually usually used for DVs, but
the Porta Shrine. So you're abusing your hireling. Is that what I'm hearing?
oh, very much so.
I'm still a little
it's there
surprised.
for mana.
I'm surprised there's a few clerics that even have divine vitality. I mean, that used to be like the thing for clerics, and then they came out with the aura and the burst, and overnight people stopped caring that.
That was so.
I would say some things with
so 2011.
Things that with hirelings that I tend to use. If you have a healing cleric, or like you just kind of want them to heal, don't put them in passive. They don't heal you if they're in passive. I tried that. It didn't work very well.
They seem to do the best on defensive.
Yeah, if you want them to be more healing than defensive does, and we'll talk about some hirelings that we like to use. I've definitely noticed that certain divine hirelings are a little more on top of the healing than others. And they're not necessarily the most high-level ones either. There's a lot of options for which ones you can pick that can do that. See, I was going to say, you're talking about like don't buy just one hireling, which is good advice. If your hireling expires, they don't just disappear. You don't lose them until you enter a town area. So if you're running a chain of quests that are in an explorer area, you can actually go in with like a minute left of your hireling, summon them as soon as you get in the explorer area, and you can run a whole chain of quests, as long as you don't ever recall back to the town, in which case you'll lose the hireling. So you can get a little extra bang for your buck on a hireling in that manner for running those kind of quests. Although they're not really that expensive either. So.
Another thing is, like potions, if you run out, they don't disappear from your hotbar. So have your hirelings in your hotbar. I usually stick them beside my spell components, just so that you know how many you have left. So if you have like 4 or 5 different hirelings, have them all in your hotbar, so you can keep an eye on how many you have.
Yeah, that's a good another way to do it. There are I don't use them, so I don't really have a very good familiarity with. But there's I believe hireling folders you can get out of the store.
Yes,
Do you use those, Lessa? Do you know how
I
they work?
do actually. I
Can you
do.
can you give us a rundown of how those work?
Uh, well, and they stack too. If you, let's say you buy 3 of the same hireling, they're not going to take up 3 spaces in that hireling folder. They're going to take up 1 space in that hireling folder, and they stack. So let's say your hireling folder is going to hold 5 or hirelings or however many hirelings your folder holds. You can buy 3 of each of those 5 different hirelings. It's pretty cool.
Can you
I
summon
really
them
should
from the
pick one
folder?
of those up.
I can't remember how much they cost. I want to say it's like 500 and something points. Don't be cheap. Just buy one. Just do it.
If you're
I
gonna use
really
hireling,
should.
that's a good way to do it. Can you summon them straight from the folder, or do you have to pull them out of the folder?
No, you have to pull them out of the folder. That's a good point.
A little
You
bit
have
of a
to,
Okay,
bummer.
now
I have a lot of hose in my stable, so I keep it full. My favorites, and then depending on whatever level my character is, so that I always have options. I almost never have to go replenish my hireling supply.
It is worth-
So
Go ahead.
the Sellsword Tavern, do those get the same discounts as the ones in House K?
I don't know about that. I never pay attention to how much they cost because I don't care about platinum, but
I do. I suck at.
it's
I currently
very
have like
convenient
12K.
to have a Sell Swords Tavern right next to your crafting hall, and you could just do what you have to. I break down my gear, get some ingredients, go over, replenish my hireling supply, walk right across to the teleporter, and go where I have to go.
A couple things that I would say, some things I've used or seen a lot of people use. People are just kind of like need a little extra healing, or possibly they just bring a hireling in for possible resing. You can park a hire at the beginning of a quest. Most hirelings you have to actually summon at the beginning of the quest. You can generally only have one hireling, but you can get, I believe, the gold seal ones you get out of the store. You can have multiple ones of those. I'm not sure if you have to be at the beginning of a quest to summon the gold seals or not.
No, you can summon a Gold Seal hireling anywhere. It's the only drawback is that you're spending DDO points for those, or you're spending astral shards to buy those Gold Seal hirelings.
You have to be alive, though, right?
Yeah, you do have to be alive. You can. That's funny. So you can potentially have 2 hirelings with you. One that's Gold Seal. Basically, you go in, you pop your hireling that you've purchased from the vendors, and then you can pop your Gold Seal hirelings. And let's say both of them have a summon, and you have a summon. Forget it. You've got practically a raid party horde going on.
Plus the Onyx Panther and
Yep.
Owlbear figurines.
The Owlbear is a beast. Like, as long as you're relatively close to their level, it takes a lot to take an Owlbear down. The Panther is honestly kind of weak, but the Owlbear is a beast.
The Owlbears have energy absorption on them. The Panther has evasion, I believe. So they have a little way how they be more survivable. So for if you just need maybe you're running a difficult quest, or a trap or a quest has some really tricky traps to get through, say the Crucible, or I'm trying to think of another one. It doesn't really come to mind, but there's a couple quests I know. I had some friends that they would always bring a hireling in and park him at the front of the quest, and his sole responsibility was to come in and res them when they needed it. They had about a 50-50 shot.
Of resing, if your cleric is out of mana or something, hirelings can pick up your soulstone, and then they will follow you as you're running as a ghost.
You
can actually lead one back to a shrine.
Yep. See anything else?
I've never done that. But I do want to ask you about the Crucible, Patrick, because I know exactly what you're talking about. I know you're talking about the swim, and I know, and you know, that hireling clerics can raise underwater, but real clerics can't. So do you think that's a bug? Do you think that's something? Do you think?
I would call
what
it.
do you think about that?
Oversight. Don't tell them.
Yeah, don't say anything because we probably don't know. He's gonna ruin it for everybody.
They have a pretty good handle on what you can and can't do, and whether or not they want that to be true or not.
Yeah.
I did want to say too, there's a couple of things to know if you're going to use hirelings. One is they do affect dungeon scaling. Not as much as a real player. They don't do it as much, but they do affect dungeon scaling. If your hireling dies, the bonus you get for not dying. If a hireling dies, you only get half of that bonus. Whereas if a player dies, you lose the entire bonus. So that's something to keep in mind. I kind of like, if I've got a few minutes, I'm going to go do some Slayer Explorers. Pop all your figurines and a hireling, and that boosts the number of monsters that are there that you can kill, so that can really improve your Slayers, which is a good trick in the Orchard or High Road, some places like that. You can't bring hirelings into raid areas, which includes Thunderholm Explorer area, the Subterranean Explorer area, and obviously raids. But that is something to keep in mind as well. I think with that, let's talk about hirelings that we utilize more so than others.
Can I just pop in for a sec?
Go for it.
The hireling folders are, the smallest one is 95. The next one up is 195, then 395, then 595.
That's cheap.
How many can you hold with 95?
The smallest with them, you can hold 2 different types of hireling contracts, and they can stack up to 10 each. So that's not bad. Although it is only reducing it by 1 slot.
Still, that's something to consider. Well, it's not just one slot either, though, because if they're in your inventory, they don't stack.
Oh, right. Yeah, true. So that's not bad. That would be enough to bring 2 different clerics.
If you know that you pretty much use the same couple hirelings, you can just grab a folder and boom, 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 done. Make it effective. Thanks for looking that up. Let's go to hirelings of note. As Lessah calls them. Do you want to go first here, Lessah?
Sure, absolutely. Hirelings of note. Some of these guys are my rock stars. So, and there are some that I haven't listed. There are several hirelings who can cast Greater Heroism, and there are several hirelings, clerics, and favored souls who can cast Blade Barrier. I did not list those because not everybody thinks Blade Barrier is as cool as I do. So, but here's what is cool, is that if you are a player who does not have the ability to cast Death Ward on yourself, you can get one of these guys. Durham Guardwell, level 13 Favored Soul. Tempest, level 14 Cleric, though I don't like the way he heals. Haystack, level 18 Cleric. Marinon, who I've never actually rented, is a level 18 Favored Soul that can cast Mass Death Ward. And all these are all Mass Death Ward. These are not individual, by the way. Albus Gladwin is a level 20 Favored Soul. We call him Straight Dumbledore. And he can cast Mass Death Ward. And Garrett the Sainted at level 25 also. And I mentioned earlier about summons. So, and you talked about dungeon scaling. Somebody told me that only goes up on the odd numbers. So if there are 2 of you and one of you pops a hireling, the next person might as well pop a hireling.
I don't know if that's necessarily true. I know that when they initially kind of made it happen, the scaling is supposed to work. So if you have like 4 players, that's kind of almost the cap, if that makes sense. It's not the same per person you add. Hirelings are supposed to add less scaling, and if you have more than 4 people, you're not affecting the scaling as much as you. So adding your 5th and 6th player does not add as much scaling as a 3rd or 4th player.
Okay.
That's my understanding of how it works. They've never been exceptionally clear about how it works, but those are kind of some of the things that they said.
Okay. Well, one of the things I like to do is I like to rent a hireling that has the ability to cast a summon of their own. So let's say I'm an artificer and I have a companion. Sorry, not a pet. And you can also cast summon monster on top of that. So, and then I'm going to rent this hireling, and then my hireling is going to be able to cast summon monster Well, now there's a whole group of us. It's practically a full party. And
It
the
should be
summons
noted that
don't
summons
affect
do
dungeon
not
scaling.
count towards scaling.
Yeah. Exactly. So, some of my favorites, actually these are all of them. Some level 4, you can, Barak can summon, he's summon monster 1, Flower, who I affectionately call Jiggly Caliente because she looks exactly like a drag queen that appeared on the season 4 of RuPaul's Drag Race. You can Google that and see what I'm talking about. She is a level 7 cleric who can summon monster 4, and it's a spider. Fergus also is a level 7 cleric with the same thing. Sammy Merrick, level 9 cleric. He can summon an earth elemental, and he's probably pretty close to one of my favorite hirelings, even though he's level 9, because he seems to be smarter than everyone else, and his earth elemental is quite useful. So we have Athaias the Dower, a level 11 sorcerer with summon monster 5, but I can't remember what it is. I think it might be a Djinn, but I'm not sure. I can't remember. Klin is a level 19 cleric who can summon a Hezaru, and Lessah is a level 18 wizard who I believe summons the same thing, but I'm not sure because I haven't rented her in a long time.
Do you want to keep going with your list?
Oh, yeah, okay, I just didn't know. I didn't know if you had anything to add about that because I had already talked about, boosting the level or boosting your party up with summons. These are hirelings who I think are pretty useful. They can do what I consider cool and unique things. Lonnie Vesta is a level 9 favored soul, and she's the only hireling that I know of who can cast freedom of movement. I find that useful whenever I go to knock out it's the Kobold quest in the harbor where you have to sneak in and steal a gem. Man, what's it called?
Stealthy repossession.
Stealthy repossession. That's the one. I'll bring her and so that she can cast freedom of movement on me, and then she can just stay there because I don't need her anymore. And there's Michael the Pious. I call him Michael the Deedor. He's a level 9 fighter, and he has a lesser dragon mark of passage, so I believe it's 3 times per rest or something like that. He can summon you a Deedor. It's very, very useful. Say in the Crystal Cove when you're scouting. Just saying. Let's see. There's Barrage. He is the only... he's a level 13 wizard, and he can cast Reconstruct. So I know of a few Warforges in my guild who will carry him around just as their personal healer. But he does a lot more than that, and I'll talk about him in a minute. There's Groban Half-Hitch, a level 21 wizard with a Trap the Soul spell. And I use him quite often if I'm going for, let's say, the Adamantine Ritual. Are you familiar with the Relic of the Sovereign Past? You go in there and you collect adamantine ore, and you can increase the hardness of something that keeps breaking, like a ring of feathers or something like that, and
Or an earworm.
or your favorite robe or whatever it is that has you naked and bleeding by the end of a quest. You can increase the hardness of it with this ritual, and I use this guy to capture souls for me, and I'm kind of obsessed with crafting, so I end up getting a lot of souls this way. Just running around with him wherever I need. It's noteworthy to mention that anything over CR 20, he has a real problem with. You're not going to get it done. If you need something that's like strong strong soul of a giant or strong undead or anything like that, you're going to have to go slumming. You're going to have to go to your friends and give them some some of those tiny Kyber Dragon Shard fragments that you've crunched up, and ask them, pretty please, will you go trap this soul for me? That's what I end up doing half the time. So, let's talk about hirelings who are particularly aggressive. I've already mentioned his name, but I'll mention him again. Fergus, level 7 cleric. Man, I don't know what they did to this guy, but you call him up and he will do the quest for you. Just follow him around. What do you want to attack next, Fergus? Let's go. He's a little halfling. Maybe that's why. He's got a Napoleon complex. All right, my favorite hireling, arguably my favorite hireling. And man, I complain about her every time I call her, but I keep calling her because it just one does not tell Laura Faye what to do. Laura Faye, level 15 favorite soul. If you've never hired anybody, hire her. Just rent her, just for the experience, because she's a favorite soul, but don't expect her to heal you, because she is too busy trying to destruct Command and Comet Fall the entire dungeon. She's going to run out of mana within about 5 minutes, but she does very well in quests that are above her level. So just remember that just because a hireling is a healer doesn't mean their priority is to heal you. Have either of you ever rented this hireling?
No, but I've heard of her fame.
Yeah, one does not simply expect Laura Faye to heal. She does whatever she wants. I'm pretty sure she's sentient.
She
I think
is a
she has
drow
become-
priestess. There's not much more you could expect out of her.
She has become self-aware.
I think what happens is whenever you summon her, it pops up on a Game Master's screen, and then they can just play with her.
The GM. Yeah, that may be absolutely true. I have fun with her every single time. But just make sure that you have one of those quests that has a lot of shrines in it, because she's going to run out of mana super fast. Okay, Barrage, who I've already mentioned, a level 13 wizard. He has a lot of spells. It seems like he has too many spells for his level. And he will use every single one of them, and he will draw all the aggro that he can, and he will kill everything in the dungeon, including you, if he can. So you have to be very careful about Barrage, but he's fun, and he wears a cool hat. He's the only hireling I know that wears a really cool hat. There's Breck, level 23 favored soul. You can't make him heal you. You have to wait for his AI to kick in before he heals you, and he's super, super aggressive. He'd rather attack things and swing his sword than cast a heal, but he will do it. I have rented him before. I like to rent him because with my paladins, I want my clerics really close. So, and has the ability to fight, but he's pretty aggressive. And then there's a level 24 rogue that I don't like at all. I think his name's Ison. I don't even know if I'm saying that right. I don't rent him anymore. I'll take one of the others. Even if it's a level 25 quest or whatever, I'll take one of the level 23 rogues, because I don't like him. He's very aggressive, and he doesn't do traps very well. If he's
Lesson.
Yeah. What have we learned from this? So I recommend the Mufasa. I think he's only level 21, but he's a rogue and has a lot of good sneak attack damage, high DPS. So, do you guys have anything to add to this aggressive list?
Actually, the aggressive
I'm just
list.
gonna wait for you to finish, and then I'll drop my stuff.
Oh, okay, no problem. That's it. That's actually the end of my hireling, my hireling spiel.
I'll say for myself, I tend to use Albus and Garrett the most, because they're both healers, and they both seem to be more adept at actually actively healing and keeping me alive than even ones that are higher level than them. They also cast Death Ward. I think they both cast Death Ward and both have a raise, which is kind of both things I like to have on a higher cleric if they're going to be healing me. I don't typically use them, but if you want a rogue hireling, you either have to get a gold seal one or an epic one. So keep that in mind. If you're in epic levels, you can get a rogue hireling. I haven't really utilized them, so I'm not sure how effective they are in general, but those are options as well. I also wanted to point out that the level of a hireling does affect the level of your quest for bravery bonus. Generally speaking, that's not a problem, because you can't use a hireling that's a higher level than you, but you can use the Onyx and the Onyx Panther and the Owlbear figurines before you get to their level. So just kind of be aware of that. I know people have actually used that to their advantage. So they'll keep an elite streak, and then they'll hit running with the Devils, and they'll run it on normal, and they'll pop one of the Owlbear or they'll pop the Panther, which is higher level than the dungeon. So it negates the bravery streak bonus, but then they can run it on normal and get it done. So just kind of some tips there with that. Nick, you had some hirelings that you particularly like?
Okay, well, to start off, I'll start at the top and work my way down. Yeah, level-wise. At least not epic, though. For my clerics, if I'm on... My favorite one is actually Klin Stegan. I don't know if that's how you actually pronounce his name, but he's a little halfling, he's level 19, and my god, he is the best damn little hireling cleric I've ever met. Also, he has 7 monster 9, so, that's nice too. The only time I don't use him is if I am on a blue bar, in which case I'll pick up Iron Stalia, who is a level 17 cleric elf. The only reason I do that is because she has DV3. If I don't need self-healing, because either I'm a cleric myself or some other form of self-healing build, I'll usually carry along a bard, or if I need a tank, I'll usually carry along a fighter or a barbarian. Personally, for the fighter and barbarians, I tend to carry along Warforged, just because they look cool and I like their names. Oh great, there was something I was going to say and now I can't remember. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I've either got the clerics. If I don't need them, I'm either bard or fighter. For my low-level cleric, where I had him just a second ago, you can continue. I'll drop with the low-level cleric in a sec.
Well, I think that just to kind of close out the conversation, let's go around the table real quick and just what's something you'd like to see to improve the companions and hirelings system? Oh,
well, I definitely like to see not so much hirelings, but more the companions get their own epic destiny. They don't need to have a bunch of them like we do, just a companion epic destiny. Generic works for any companion, skeleton, arty pet, druid pet, whatever happens to come in the future.
So just something to beef them up in epic levels.
Yeah, just give them a little thing to go along. I mean, they have their own enhancements. Actually, I'd like to see the skeleton get their own enhancements as well. Also, speaking of the enhancements, I'd really like to see them get, like, today's trees, because they still have the old style. I also miss being able to have an archer or a mage skeleton as a Palemaster. So it'd be nice to see them get actual enhancements with the new system.
Lessah?
Well, with hirelings, I would like to see a little bit of a shift in their priorities. I am your employer. I have paid you to help me. I am your priority. I should be number one on your list. You mentioned you liked Garrett a lot because he casts Death Ward. Well, I have a friend who hates to rent Garrett because he will heal everyone but her when she hires him. She is just not on his priority list. And I'm like, what, does Garrett not like casters or what? What is going on here? So my only beef would be that I need to be that hireling's priority, number one, and then they can put everyone else number 1, 2, 3, 5. Who cares? I'm number one. You need to heal me first.
I haven't ever tried it with a hireling or a healer, but if you can like tell a hireling to defend you.
Mm-hmm.
I'm kind of wondering if that would make them better at healing you. I've never tried it.
I've never thought of that.
Yourself?
That's a good idea.
Yeah, they do seem to follow you around and heal a lot better if you do defend me. But make sure they're on defensive, because if you put them on offensive, they're going to try and kill anything that's hitting you. If you have them on defend me and defensive, they'll do everything in their power. They're still not perfect, but they do seem to work better that way.
You haven't lived until you've let all your hirelings and your companions off the leash. Just let them go. Hireling, do what you will.
Oh yeah, the first couple levels just watching a druid.
Yeah.
We had a whole party full of druids, and we just wiped the first couple levels without doing anything. I think we made it to like level 6, and we played like actual tabletop while doing the quest. Every so often we just moved forward.
Nice. I did have an experience recently, right? I was running Ghost of Perdition on Epic Normal, and I'm not sure if it's still the case on Heroic, but on Heroic it used to be that the when you get to the two brothers, the brother on the bottom, if you stayed at the top, would eventually make his way up to the top. You could find them both at the same time. So I was trying to solo with that expectation, and it wasn't working. So I tried to have I summoned both of my Panthers or both of my Owlbears, the Panther and a Cleric Hireling, and had them attack one, and then tried to kill the other one and get the timing to work.
Aww, how did it work?
It actually worked pretty well, other than the fact that I couldn't get the timing right. They were able to, because by the time after you kill them once, you don't get the message anymore. So it's really hard to get the timing down, which I kind of I was kind of trying to do that. Someone else was like, "Hey, I'm going to go to Expedition." I'm like, "Great, this will make it easier." I did it with them.
Aww. So I have a question for you. What is your companion's name? Because that's very important.
Oh, hold on. I'm gonna have to. It's been a while.
It's been a while. You don't know your companion's name right off the top
No, I
of your
have
head?
several, and
Oh,
there's a
okay.
certain one I want to bring up.
Oh, okay.
I just want to make sure I say it correctly. But you guys continue. I will.
I don't know if I actually ever named my wolf.
What?
I didn't use him very much. I don't remember if I
Shame,
did.
Patrick!
But those people who know me and have played with me, my naming conventions tend to be named out of the Bible. And when I rolled an artificer, I took the name of the guy who makes the tabernacle in Exodus, and I named the dog after the assistant in that. So I think the name was Oholiab or something like that. But that's where it came from.
Well, we'll get back to the name, but one thing I would like to see is the permanent hirelings in the Owlbear and the Panther and stuff are nice, but I'd like to see a leveling hireling. I'd be totally fine if it was DDO store only, but it would be your level, and you'd be able to customize its equipment, what spells it has, maybe even its enhancements would be really nice.
Should note too that there is a level 3 cleric permanent hireling that you can get with the starter pack.
Yeah, and like I said, those are nice, but I want to see one that actually, if you're level 1, it's level 1. If you're level 2, it's level 2. Obviously, the more customization, the better, but even if I had no customization and all it did was level with me, I'd be perfectly happy.
With that, unless you guys have anything you want to throw in really quick, I'm going to close this with something written by Fuzzy Duck on the forum. Sent me a message. Said he saw that you're doing pets and hires for an upcoming episode. Thought he'd just say that one of my characters he's currently working on is an artificer with 2 druid past lives, augment summoning feat, and Harper leadership from the Harper tree, which is another way you can boost hirelings. So he has a total of plus 12 to all hireling summons and pet stats. He could get another plus 2 with a 3rd druid life. Between his dog, a hireling, usually an owlbear, and a summon from the Zoriat trinket, he has his Goldshea Horde. He has an Ooze 2 repeater from the Shroud. It's great fun to play as well as hilarious. So, fun little trick there. If you're not familiar with the Ooze 2 weapons from the Shroud, which are really popular on bows, they summon oozes, sundering oozes, which you may see occasionally these days. You don't see them as often as they used to, but they were kind of fun. With that, I'll continue in Lightning Post. Can Touch This wrote that he is bitter about Blitz. This is referring to our conversation from last week. Starting with 3 stacks would be better, but the damage is still terrible at 10, but he does love the raid, although he is having some trouble lagging. The survey question for the week comes from Zardarmo. If you could be a mob from the game, who would you be and why? We'll start with Nick.
If I could be a mob from the game, Kobold. Kobolds, definitely kobolds. Well, 1 kobold.
Yark.
Yark, yark.
Lessah, who would you be?
I would be a Netherese because they have. I don't even know what that accent is, but the accent is cool.
I have to go with Lord of Blades because he has the best looking armor in the game, and it's pretty awesome. And I'm still a little bitter that my Barbarian can't wear the Blade Forge cosmetic. I could do it, but it'd be a little tricky. So with that, you guys want to throw anything else out before we end the show here?
Two things. One, my druid's animal companion is called the Devourer of Worlds. Or sorry, my arty animal companion is called the Devourer of Worlds, and my druid animal companion is called Fenrir. And completely unrelated, especially well, not completely.
You just muted yourself.
What'd I do?
You muted
How'd I do
yourself. We missed the last half of that.
Can you hear me now?
Yep.
All right. What did I say last?
Something unrelated.
Oh, something somewhat still related to hirelings in general. Weapons. We know absolutely nothing about this other than that they are coming. I personally would like to see them become leveling hirelings. They are living, and I know other people want to see them weapons, but I think it would be cool if they were.
You hit the mute button again.
Good.
Must be in your mouth.
What?
Must be in your mouth or something.
Oh, that's weird. Okay, so yeah, I would like to see sentient weapons become leveling hirelings, is basically what I'm saying. Obviously, we know absolutely nothing about what they're actually doing with them, but that's what I think they should do. I think it would be cool for me to have a leveling sword thing come around with me. Obviously, you would get it at cap, and then when you TR'd, you'd get to go through the levels with a hireling, because a lot of people get bored of the TR train, so it'd be cool to have a hireling along with you that you got at a high level.
Be an option. Lessah, anything you want to throw out in the show, like maybe when we'll see another cocktail hour coming out?
I would love to record another cocktail hour. It's the scheduling that we're always having a problem with because Samus's work schedule changed. So, but hopefully soon. I did get a chance to listen to the other new DDO-based podcast, and it's pretty cool. I was very impressed with it, and I'm glad that our community is such that we still have things to talk about in a podcast. I'm glad of that because I really love this game and I don't want to stop playing it. And also, you didn't ask me my pet's name, Patrick. What's wrong with you? It's Janet, so that I can say
Damn it, Janet.
Janet, exactly. And if I'm playing, the only exception is on my female drow. Her pet's name is Brad. So it's a notable exception.
Damn it, Brad.
No, it's not Brad.
No.
Oh,
well, if we're plugging, Alarvin on Twitch every Monday, 4:30 p.m. Watch the minions play in DDO. We do a live stream. I am not Alarvin, but I am plugging for him because I play with him. He is the leader of our static group. Which is sort of a semi-death, we call it. It's not quite permadeath, but, come watch us, because we usually have like 12 watchers, so.
All right, well, thanks, guys, for being on the show, and thanks for participating in the conversation, and thanks to everyone listening to the show. Thanks to the other folks contributing with DDOcast, and thanks to Turbine and Wizards for DDO and D&D, and thanks to Cyberish for hosting the podcast. You can hit us up at ddocast.com for show notes, our calendar, swag, previous shows, and other fun stuff. You can also find our current event or competition, contest, opportunity to win a lot of points there as well. So make sure you go and do that. You can also find us on social media pages and follow us there for the latest cast updates. The closing tip from the week comes from Equatus. Don't listen to the naysayers. Build your characters to suit you and your playstyle. As long as you enjoy playing them, they are not gimped.
Happy Halloween!
Yes, indeed.
Thank you.
Happy Halloween. And since the music is still broken, I'll just say until next time, may all your attack rolls be crits, all your chest level appropriate. Have fun, and don't forget to buff your hirelings. Thanks for listening, guys.
Cheers.
Bye-bye.